The story of Pompeii, the roar of Mount Vesuvius and the sudden collapse of an ancient civilization in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, nestled along the fertile coastline of the Bay of Naples, stood one of the Roman Empire's most vibrant cities. Pompeii was a jewel of ancient civilization, a thriving commercial hub where merchants hawked exotic goods from across the Mediterranean, where citizens gathered in grand forums to debate politics and philosophy, and where the wealthy adorned their villas with magnificent frescoes that still take our breath away nearly 2,000 years later. But on the morning of August 24th, 79 CE, the mountain that had blessed this region with rich volcanic soil would reveal its terrible power. In a matter of hours, one of history's most catastrophic natural disasters would unfold, preserving an entire civilization in time while simultaneously destroying it forever. To understand the magnitude of what happened that day, we must first journey back to Pompeii at the height of its glory. This was no provincial backwater, but a sophisticated Roman city of approximately 15 to 20,000 inhabitants. The streets buzzed with activity as dawn broke each morning. Bakers lit their ovens before sunrise, filling the air with the aroma of fresh bread. In the Forum, the heart of civic life, politicians and merchants gathered beneath towering columns of marble, their voices echoing across the vast courtyard as they conducted the business of empire. The city's prosperity was built on trade and agriculture. Pompeii's location made it a crucial port for goods flowing between Rome and the eastern Mediterranean. Wine from the volcanic slopes of Vesuvius was particularly prized, as were the region's olive oil and grain. The city's amphitheater, one of the oldest surviving Roman arenas, could seat 20,000 spectators who came to witness gladiatorial contests and theatrical performances that rivaled those of Rome itself. Walking through Pompeii's streets, a visitor would have marveled at the sophisticated urban planning. Stone-paved roads were raised above ground level to allow for drainage and sewage systems. Stepping stones enabled pedestrians to cross streets without soiling their feet in the muck that inevitably accumulated from passing carts and animals. Public fountains provided fresh water throughout the city, fed by an ingenious aqueduct system that brought mountain water down from the hills. The homes of the wealthy were architectural marvels in their own right. Built around central courtyards called atriums, these villas featured elaborate gardens, private baths, and walls decorated with intricate frescoes depicting everything from mythological scenes to everyday life. The House of the Viti, with its stunning garden and erotic artwork, demonstrated the sophistication and sometimes ribald humor of Pompeian culture. Meanwhile, the Villa of the Papyri housed an extensive library of scrolls, testament to the intellectual pursuits of the city's elite. But Pompeii was not just a playground for the rich. The city teemed with ordinary citizens living in modest homes and apartments. Shopkeepers sold everything from fish sauce to jewelry along busy commercial streets. Taverns served wine and simple meals to workers and travelers. Public baths provided not just hygiene but social gathering places where people of all classes could mingle, gossip, and conduct business. The walls of Pompeii tell us much about daily life in the ancient world. Graffiti scrawled by citizens reveals their hopes, fears, and petty complaints. Love declarations, political slogans, and even ancient bathroom humor provide an intimate glimpse into the minds of people who lived 2 millennia ago. Marcus loves Spendusa, reads one inscription. Another warns, beware of the dog. These human touches make Pompeii feel remarkably alive, even in its death. For decades before the eruption, Mount Vesuvius had been showing signs of restlessness. The mountain, which rises nearly 4,300 feet above sea level, had not erupted in living memory. Most residents probably viewed it as simply a dormant peak, its slopes covered in vineyards and farms that benefited from the rich volcanic soil. But beneath the surface, tremendous forces were building pressure. 17 years before the Great Eruption, in 62 CE, a powerful earthquake had struck the region, damaging many buildings in Pompeii and nearby cities. Smaller tremors continued regularly in the following years. Modern volcanologists recognize these as warning signs of volcanic activity, but ancient Romans lacked our understanding of geology. They might have attributed the earthquakes to the gods' displeasure or simply accepted them as part of life in this seismically active region. In the days immediately preceding the eruption, earthquake activity intensified. The ground shook more frequently and with greater violence. Wells and springs changed their behavior, some drying up while others began flowing more abundantly. Animals grew restless, behaving in ways that country folk had learned to associate with coming disasters. Yet for most people in Pompeii, these were merely inconveniences to be endured, not harbingers of catastrophe. Then came August 24th, 79 CE. The morning began like any other in Pompeii. Citizens woke to attend to their daily routines, unaware that they were living the final hours of their city's existence. Around midday, Mount Vesuvius exploded with unimaginable violence. The eruption began with a tremendous roar that could be heard for hundreds of miles. A massive column of ash, rock, and gas shot skyward with the force of thousands of atomic bombs. This column, called a Plinian eruption after Pliny the Younger, who witnessed and described it, reached heights of over 20 miles into the atmosphere. At its peak, it resembled an enormous pine tree, its trunk of volcanic material spreading into a vast canopy of ash and debris. Pliny the Younger, who was staying in Misenum across the bay from Vesuvius, left us the only eyewitness account of the disaster. He described how the mountain seemed to catch fire, how darkness fell in the middle of the day, and how his uncle, Pliny the Elder, died attempting to rescue friends trapped by the eruption. His letters to the historian Tacitus provide crucial details about what people experienced during those terrifying hours. The first phase of the eruption rained white pumice stones down on Pompeii. These lightweight volcanic rocks, some no larger than pebbles, others the size of golf balls, began accumulating in the streets and on rooftops. At first, many residents probably thought they could wait out the storm indoors. But the pumice continued falling hour after hour, and its weight began causing roofs to collapse. People faced a terrible choice: remain inside and risk being crushed, or venture into the deadly hail of volcanic debris. Many chose to flee. Archaeologists have found evidence of hasty departures throughout the city. Meals were left half-eaten on tables. Shops were abandoned with goods still on display. Valuable items were hastily gathered or reluctantly left behind as families loaded whatever they could carry and joined the streams of refugees heading away from the mountain. But escape was not guaranteed. The roads leading out of Pompeii quickly became clogged with people, animals, and carts piled high with possessions. The continuing rain of pumice made travel difficult and dangerous. Visibility dropped to near zero as volcanic ash filled the air. The lucky ones who had horses or donkeys had better chances, but many were forced to proceed on foot through the accumulating debris. As the eruption continued through the night and into the following day, the character of the volcanic activity changed. The tall eruption column began to collapse under its own weight, sending pyroclastic flows racing down the mountainside toward the surrounding cities. These flows, mixtures of superheated gas, ash, and rock fragments, moved at speeds of over 100 miles per hour and reached temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The first pyroclastic flow to reach Pompeii arrived in the early morning hours of August 25th. Unlike the pumice fall that had been burying the city for nearly 18 hours, these flows killed instantly. The superheated gas seared the lungs of anyone who tried to breathe it, while the force of the flow knocked down walls and buried everything in its path under several feet of volcanic material. Those who had remained in Pompeii, whether by choice or circumstance, faced an agonizing end. Some had taken shelter in the strongest buildings they could find, huddled in interior rooms and basements. Others had been trapped by collapsed doorways or accumulated pumice that made escape impossible. When death came, it was swift but terrible. The volcanic material that buried Pompeii created a unique preservation environment. Unlike typical archaeological sites where organic materials decay over time, the ash and pumice at Pompeii formed airtight seals around objects, bodies, and even empty spaces. When Giuseppe Fiorelli began systematic excavations in the 1860s, he developed a technique of pouring plaster into the voids left by decomposed bodies, creating haunting casts that show people in their final moments. These plaster casts are perhaps the most powerful artifacts from Pompeii. We see a man covering his face against the toxic fumes, a woman clutching a child, a dog still wearing its bronze collar trying to break free from a chain. A family huddles together in what appears to be a final embrace. These images connect us viscerally to the human tragedy that unfolded, making the distant past feel immediate and personal. The eruption that destroyed Pompeii also buried the nearby cities of Herculaneum and Stabia, along with countless villas and farms throughout the region. Herculaneum, closer to Vesuvius, was hit by earlier pyroclastic flows and buried under 60 feet of volcanic material that hardened into rock. This deeper burial preserved organic materials even better than at Pompeii, including wooden furniture, papyrus scrolls, and even loaves of bread that retained their shape after nearly 2,000 years. In the aftermath of the disaster, the Roman government organized relief efforts for survivors and attempted to resettle refugees in other parts of the empire. The Emperor Titus appointed commissioners to oversee the distribution of aid and the disposal of property belonging to victims who died without heirs. But there was no thought of rebuilding on the buried sites. The destruction was too complete, the volcanic deposits too deep. Over time, the exact locations of the buried cities were forgotten. Medieval maps show the area as uninhabited countryside. Farmers occasionally turned up ancient artifacts in their fields, but few connected these finds to the lost cities mentioned in ancient texts. It was not until 1599 that workers digging a tunnel accidentally broke into buildings that would later be identified as part of Pompeii. Systematic excavation began in the 18th century under the Bourbon kings of Naples, though early efforts were more akin to treasure hunting than scientific archaeology. Valuable objects were removed to decorate royal palaces, often with little regard for their archaeological context. It was only in the 19th century that more careful, methodical excavation began to reveal Pompeii as a complete ancient city frozen in time. Today, Pompeii stands as one of the world's most important archaeological sites. Nearly two-thirds of the city has been excavated, revealing an unparalleled window into Roman urban life. We can walk the same streets that Roman citizens walked, see the same wall paintings they saw, even read the graffiti they wrote. The city provides insights into everything from ancient architecture and urban planning to social structures, religious practices, and daily routines. The preservation at Pompeii is so complete that we can trace individual life stories. Take the House of the Surgeon, named for the medical instruments found there. We can see where the doctor worked, examine his tools, and even study the patients depicted in the house's frescoes. Or consider the Villa of the Mysteries, famous for its frescoes showing what appears to be a religious initiation ceremony. These paintings provide our best evidence for certain mystery cults that were central to Roman religious life. Food and dining culture come alive at Pompeii in ways impossible at other ancient sites. We can see the layout of ancient kitchens, examine cooking pots still sitting on stoves, and study the remains of meals interrupted by the eruption. Carbonized loaves of bread show us ancient baking techniques. Jars of fish sauce reveal the Roman passion for this pungent condiment. Gardens preserve the roots and seeds of plants that supplied Roman tables. The social dynamics of Roman society are equally visible. The contrast between grand mansions and modest apartments illustrates economic inequality. Slave quarters remind us of the human cost underlying Roman prosperity. Public buildings like baths and theaters show how Romans created spaces for communal activities across class lines. The amphitheater, with its different seating sections for various social ranks, demonstrates how status hierarchies were maintained even in entertainment. Perhaps most remarkably, Pompeii preserves traces of ordinary human emotions and relationships. Love letters scratched on walls, children's toys left in courtyards, and family shrines in homes all speak to the universal human experiences that transcend historical periods. These intimate details make the people of Pompeii feel like our neighbors rather than distant figures from ancient history. The scientific value of Pompeii extends far beyond archaeology and history. The site provides crucial data for volcanologists studying explosive eruptions. By examining the layers of volcanic deposits, scientists can reconstruct the precise sequence of events during the 79 CE eruption and use this information to better understand how similar volcanoes might behave in the future. This research has practical importance since Vesuvius remains an active volcano and over 3 million people now live in the surrounding region. Modern technology continues to reveal new secrets about Pompeii. Ground-penetrating radar helps archaeologists locate buried structures without excavation. Digital imaging allows scholars to read faded inscriptions and detect details invisible to the naked eye. Computer modeling reconstructs how buildings appeared before the eruption and simulates the progression of pyroclastic flows through the city streets. Recent discoveries have challenged some long-held assumptions about Pompeii. Analysis of skeletons suggests the population was more diverse than previously thought, with evidence of people from various parts of the Mediterranean world. Studies of food remains reveal a more varied diet than expected, including evidence that even ordinary citizens had access to exotic foods and spices. Examination of workshops and commercial spaces shows a more complex economy with sophisticated manufacturing and trade networks. The story of Pompeii also serves as a powerful reminder of nature's awesome destructive power. Mount Vesuvius has erupted many times since 79 CE, most recently in 1944. Each eruption reminds us that the forces that destroyed Pompeii remain active beneath our feet. The volcano's history teaches us about the ongoing geological processes that shape our planet, often with little regard for human civilization built in their path. In our modern world, where we sometimes feel we have mastered nature through technology, Pompeii stands as a humbling monument to human vulnerability. The Romans who lived there possessed sophisticated engineering, impressive architecture, and complex social institutions. Yet all of this was swept away in a matter of hours by forces beyond their control or understanding. The excavated city attracts millions of visitors each year, making it one of Italy's most popular tourist destinations. Walking through its streets, visitors experience a unique form of time travel, connecting directly with people who lived 2 millennia ago. The experience is both fascinating and sobering, offering insights into human achievements while confronting us with reminders of mortality and the fragility of civilization. But Pompeii faces new challenges in the modern era. Exposure to air, water, and millions of tourists takes a constant toll on the ancient structures and artifacts. Conservation efforts work continuously to prevent further deterioration, but resources are limited and the task is enormous. Climate change brings new threats in the form of more extreme weather patterns that can damage exposed ruins. The ongoing excavation and study of Pompeii continues to yield new discoveries and insights. Recent work has focused on previously unexplored areas of the city, revealing additional neighborhoods with their own stories to tell. Each new house uncovered adds to our understanding of Roman life, while each new inscription provides additional glimpses into ancient thoughts and feelings. As we reflect on the story of Pompeii, we are struck by both the tragedy and the gift it represents. The volcanic disaster that ended so many lives also preserved them for posterity in a way that no other ancient site can match. Through their preservation in volcanic ash, the people of Pompeii achieved a form of immortality they never could have imagined. Their city stands today not just as a tourist attraction or archaeological site, but as a profound meditation on the human condition. It reminds us that civilizations, no matter how sophisticated, remain vulnerable to forces beyond their control. It shows us that ordinary people living ordinary lives are worthy of remembrance and study. And it demonstrates that, even in destruction, something valuable can be preserved for future generations to discover and learn from. The roar of Mount Vesuvius on that August day in 79 C marked the end of one story, but the beginning of another. The sudden collapse of an ancient civilization became the birth of an archaeological treasure that continues to teach us about ourselves, our past, and our place in the natural world. In the shadow of Vesuvius, life and death, preservation and destruction, tragedy and discovery remain forever intertwined, creating one of history's most compelling and enduring narratives.